All right, welcome on board. Welcome on board. How's everybody doing this morning? I got a couple of shout outs already. We got Gospel. Thank you, man. Karen, showing some love. Thank you very much. Again, let me know where you're from. It's always a good reminder. Bilal. Hey, man. My man, Dean Hankey. Catch you on the flip side, Dean. I got your message last night, by the way, so I'll get back to you, man. Thank you for the graphics, man. They're awesome graphics, so thank you very much, Dean. All right, Henry Lee's back. Henry's from Wisconsin, right, Henry? If I got that right, man, appreciate your energy and happy Friday back to all of you, man. All right, now, so I want to talk about, I might keep this one short. You know, I always say that, but they seem to go longer, right? Who's this? Gangnam Deep. Oh, they're coming in hot and heavy now, man. Gangnam Deep. Salvador Fregapane. I'm doing good, Salvatore. Maybe that's Italy? Tell me where you're from, man. Hello, Victor. This is Pushkar from New Delhi, India. India's always in the house. And that's right. Henry's proud of that cheese state, man. Wisconsin's a great state. Hey, Jesus, man. Always good to have you back, man. Dude, so far so good, man. I got my Starbucks. I got my latte going, so we'll talk about that a little bit. Ciao, Antonio de Florence from Florence, Italy. Anna Maria Laszlo. That is a cool name. That's like a queen's name. Anna Maria Laszlo. Right? Sagi Moshe. Welcome aboard, man. All right, just a couple more. Belgium in the house. Arva Media. Love it, man. Salvatore, obviously. Ciao Bella, right? That whole thing. I've been to Italy I think once. I mean, it's just beautiful. I mean, what is it? By the way, I went by Salvatore. I went by the Amalfi Coast. We took a tour down the Amalfi Coast, and it's just. By the way, Salvatore was so beautiful, I stopped taking pictures. Because it's so beautiful, you can't capture the Amalfi Coast. You just can't. It's just too beautiful. M. Abdi from Somalia, welcome aboard, man. Hello here from, now this one I never heard, Maharashtra, India. Man, Vinit, man, thank you for joining me, man. We got, all right, Ginger from Louisiana, man. Had me some crawfish back in the day, man. I got a story about that one. So VDK Krish, also from India, Madurai, pleasure, man. Hello from Indiana, Hoosier State. Wanda, welcome aboard. Taru, my man's back, man. I'm doing good. I've just joined Toastmasters Club. Boom. Toastmasters, learn how to speak, the best investment you can make. Find a Toastmasters organization in your area, and it's pretty cool, man. Sagi Moshe from Israel. Been there a couple of times, man. I went to Tel Aviv a couple of times, and then Haifa as well. I was selling to, what is the name of your large telecom company down there? I forget. Bezik, I think is the name. So yeah, all right. Los Angeles in the house. All right. Jonathan, I couldn't agree with you more, but that's just between us. Sagi from Israel. Got it, man. All right, so let's get into this. So I really want to get into more about the style piece, so I titled this one Starbucks and Style, right? So I was reading this article. I was on LinkedIn. This morning I'm reading this article how Starbucks is closing down, I think, like 400 stores, right? 400 stores are closing down. And it's because of this coronavirus, the pandemic. They realize that, obviously, there's a weakness in their business plan. What was interesting about that model is that, let's talk about the Starbucks thing. Because there's a lot of different things. When I read it, it seemed like people were almost celebrating that they were closing 400 stores, right? And that kind of caught my attention, like, why are you celebrating 400 stores closing? But in reality, when you read the article, they're going to be net 300 new stores, so I guess they're actually building more stores. But this time, what they're doing is that a lot of the stores probably didn't have drive-thrus, and because of the pandemic, you know that you can only do drive-thrus right now. So I think they're shifting their business model towards the drive-thru, which they had planned to do. In the last, for the next 2 or 3 years, they had planned to do this anyway. But again, the pandemic caught them off guard, and now they have to accelerate that. But what was interesting is I was reading about the Starbucks. It really reminds us that we, as business people, have to adapt to what's going on in the market. The Starbucks example is a very good example of, look, the market shifted. We didn't know it was coming. Let's shift. The faster we can shift, the better. I think in this quarter, Q2, they're going to lose about $3 billion. I think it's $3.2 billion. That's a lot of money to lose. But, when I was reading the article, I was struck by, as I mentioned, how many people were celebrating the fact that Starbucks was like going under. right? So to speak. That was the prognostication, the forecast. Oh, it's going under. It's the beginning of the end for Starbucks. And I'm like, no. Starbucks has been through this before. During 2007, 2008, when we went into a recession, they did the same thing. They downsized the number of stores they had, but then towards the end of the recession, they bought up a lot of cheap property and boom, they took off again. So they repositioned themselves. So I think it's worth noting what Starbucks is doing, because if Starbucks is pulling back on stores, that means we are in a recession. And maybe nobody wants to say it out loud, but Starbucks is pretty much ahead of the curve in understanding what's going on. So I think we're in a recession right now. We just don't know it yet. I think we're going to come out, hopefully we'll come out fast out of this thing. We'll have not a big U out, but maybe it'll be more of a V. And so the other thing that struck me was, one is the amount of hate towards Starbucks. And it's this angst we have towards corporations. See, I've mentioned this before. I'm a capitalist. I like capitalism, right? Value for value. And people were commenting how is it possible that such a large corporation can charge, $5 to $6 for a latte, which they do. So people are saying they deserve to go under. Who would charge that much money? You know what? I could go make my own latte for 25 cents if I do it myself. And I thought about, okay, so you can make your own latte. I get that. But I think we're missing a lot here. We're missing a lot if we're just doing the coffee for coffee analysis. This is Starbucks logo, right? If we're charging $5, which I paid $5.12, I think, for that latte, and if I were to make my own latte, Victor's version, you're right, I could probably make it for about 50 cents, right? That's after I bought the espresso machine and amortized and all that good stuff. Let's not get technical, right? So people see this and say, why would you pay $4.50 more, $4.50 for a cup of coffee, right? But I think they miss a lot of it. And the big part for me is that even though the stores are not open now, people don't understand. When I typically get a latte at Starbucks, I actually use their place, their little tables off to the side. I use that for about literally 2 hours. I use their space for 2 hours. Now let me ask you a question. Would you pay $4.50 to use a space to get work done for $4.50? I would. That's $2.25 an hour. I don't know if you can rent space that cheaply. Second, because there's an environment there where you get out of your home. You ever notice that sometimes you just can't work at home and you just need to go somewhere else? So I think people are missing the fact that beyond the coffee being a little more expensive, you're also paying for the overhead if you decide to use it. And I was struck by how people were just hating on the company, but not appreciating the fact that, do you know how many books have probably been written at Starbucks? Do you know how many business deals have probably been made at Starbucks? Do you know how much action goes on in Starbucks in terms of people meeting, getting together, networking, events like that? And so instead of focusing on they're selling more coffee, I think those short-sighted people are not looking at the overall benefit that I think Starbucks provide in general. This is not a defense of Starbucks. It's just that it's irritating when people celebrate a company going under, because the other reason somebody brought it up was that they wanted Starbucks to go under was so local businesses can thrive. I get that. I want local business to thrive. In fact, if there was a local coffee shop, which there isn't, I would probably visit the local coffee shop if they had good coffee. The problem with local coffee shops, or moving from coffee shop to coffee shop, is that the flavors and tastes are always different. All this is to say is we live in a world of capitalism. And when the market shifts, we have to adjust. And so for me, for example, I think I've mentioned to you guys, and this is getting to the point of what I want to make here, that before the pandemic, I had a speaking career. Notice I just said I had, right? And then I did webinars. I have my online academy, which is the Sales Velocity Academy. And then I did coaching. And the thing is, most of my business was right here. But when the pandemic came, what I did, this was totally shut down. All events were canceled. All events were canceled, right? Now, because all events were canceled, what did I do? I shifted. I literally shifted my business model this way. And all I do is resource my energies this way. And what's happening now is that these are actually building up quite largely. In fact, the coaching program that I have is becoming very popular. And my webinars, my paid webinars, not these live streams, for companies is actually the business has gone up along with the academy, of course. And so this has forced me to kind of shift my guns. If you go back 2 months ago, my studio didn't look like this. I had to adjust to the current times. I said, you know what? I need something that looks better when I talk to customers one-on-one. So although I use these for live streams, when I'm talking to a customer or I'm doing an interview, I pull that one out, right? And so I've set up the studio to be more effective. My question to you is, what adjustments have you made? Starbucks is making adjustments, more drive-through facilities. I've made it. Again, business model shifting this way, new studio. What have you done to shift your business to grab more business? Because it's too easy to complain about what's wrong, what's not happening in the market. Markets are down, there's a recession, unemployment's high, so forth and so on. You can complain about all that, but it's not going to do you any good. My question to you is, what are you doing to adjust? Somebody said, interesting case study about Starbucks. It failed in Australia. Curious you know about this. I do not, King Aaron. I don't know why they failed, but that's a good point. I'm sure there's a reason, right? And by the way, I'm not justifying they're going to be successful everywhere. I just think it's interesting how they've shifted their strategy think about it. This is a large corporation. To say we're going to shift, downsize 400 stores, that's a big decision. You take a $3 billion hit, you're going to make a big decision, but to shift and make those adjustments being that large, I think that's pretty impressive. And I got a feeling they're going to come out the other side even better. My point is to you, what are you doing to shift yourself in this economy? That was the first part. That's all I wanted to talk about Starbucks. Like I said, I think it's a great company. Love their product, but more, I love their working space. So I can't wait for them to open up so I can go do my work. I think I've written at least half of my books at Starbucks. The last one, this one, Sales Ex Machina, 100% written at Starbucks. So anyway, so let me see. King Herring said, basically there are a lot of local coffee shops in Australia that focus on one type of drink. Look, if there's a lot of coffee shop, more competition, that's capitalism. In fact, if there's a lot of competition and Starbucks doesn't survive, then they deserve to go out of business in this area. That's capitalism. I love that. So now, second part of this conversation I wanted to have with you on this Friday, and we're going to keep it short, is I wanted to talk to you about, I want to talk about style. Can we just talk style for a second? Do you know what I mean? Selling style. Because I'm always getting the question, Victor, you know, I listen to this sales trainer, I listen to this sales guru, I listen to this sales expert, you know, how should I sell? Who should I be type of thing? My favorite question is, Victor, how can I be an authentic salesperson? Which is a weird question to me, right? How can I be an authentic salesperson? It's a contradiction. The only way you can be authentic is by being authentic, right? There's no trick to it. There's no formula to be authentic. You just be who you are. And so when I was looking at styles, in fact, do me a favor right now. Do me a favor. Tell me who your favorite, not favorite, that's a bad word. What salespeople, what sales guru, what business gurus do you like listening to? Can you just hit some for me? Give me some. Just type them in. Who do you like listening to besides me? Keep me out of this conversation. So, you know, who do you like to listen to? Who do you like to really just, you know, you can listen to a podcast, you can watch their video. Give me some sales gurus, experts, or even business experts that have great business advice. Give me a couple of names. I want to know who you come up with. Zig, Mark Sanders. I think you mean that with a Z, right? Yeah, I'll go with that, right? Zig, right? Zig Ziglar. Brian Tracy. So let's go through it. We got Zig Ziglar, right? Ziglar. And this is a good one, by the way. Brian Tracy. Let's just start there. This is going to be a fun exercise. Brian Tracy. Who else you got? Zig Ziglar, right? Dan Pena. Dan, or as it should be said, Dan Pena. Great business leader, right? The billionaire. And who else? Who else you got? Who else do you listen to that I might know? And if I don't know them, you're going to tell me who they are, and I'll look them up later on. But anybody else? So let's go with these three. Let me take this off the... Let's go with these three for now, okay? Let me see, I got some down here. Brian Tracy again. I think it's David Patrick Betts, right? You got Dan Lok, right? Dan Lok. Is it David Patrick Betts? I think that's his name. He has a channel called Valuetainment. By the way, great channel, Valuetainment. Thank you, Vin, appreciate that. Jordan Belfort, right? So you got Jordan Belfort. Okay, now stay with me on this one. Jordan Belfort, we got a couple more here. Jim Rohn. Man, I can tell Mark Saunders knows the classics. That's me, man. You and I are of one mind, Mark Saunders. Jeb Blunt, you got Jeb Blunt, my man JB. Jeb Blunt, You got JG, Jeffrey Gitomer, right? The self-professed king of sales, right? Gitomer, Patrick David Betts. It's one of those, right? Mel Robbins. Mel Robbins is the Mel Robbins I know, the lady with the glasses. Okay, I'll give Mel Robbins is a. By the way, I had a chance to share the stage with her last year. Cool lady. You should see her. We did a selfie with about 10,000 people. Myself. Trump. One could argue that, but let's keep it out. Let's keep it out for now. Mel Robbins. Mark. By the way, Mark's a good guy, man. Mark. What is it? I don't know how to spell it. Wayshack, right? Boom. Okay, who else? Les Brown. I'm going to put Les Brown under the motivational category. I'm not pushing him out of the sales category, but I'll put him over the motivational. Tony Robbins. I'm going to give you that one only because you got to respect Tony Robbins, right? All these different styles, right? Perfect. Let's leave it at that. So these are the different names, right? I'm going to come back to this screen, right? Now, let's kind of do this. Let's do this. When you look at salespeople, we have like different dimensions of selling. One of the dimensions is I'm gonna call this storytelling, and then I'm gonna call this facts, right? Draw a line like this, right? Draw a line like that. Storytelling and facts. And then on this axis, we're gonna talk about, how do I say? I'll just use the word direct. Yeah, these are people who are in your face. They're direct, like bam, direct. And then there's people who I'll say have more of a, I'm going to say charisma. Okay? So now let's start ranking some of these because it's really interesting because there is no one style, right? There is no one style. And so on one end, you have people who are great storytellers, right? For example, this, I would put, for example, a Zig Ziglar because I think he has a lot of charisma, right? Zig Ziglar. And I would put a Rohn in here as well. Rohn would be more here because he's really a lot of facts also, but you got Rohn up here. So if these were the parameters, right, of who we categorize as salespeople, all right, so now let's look at some other ones. Let's have some fun with this and let's look at some other ones. So, and let's vote on these. I'm gonna put these in red, only because it's just a different color. Doesn't signify anything. Okay, so we got that already. We got Zig Ziglar. Where would you put Dan Pena? Who knows Pena? Who knows Dan Pena? I would put Dan Pena probably right here. Would you guys agree? If we call, by the way, let's just name these quadrants. Quadrant 1, Quadrant 2, Quadrant 3, Quadrant 4, right? Where would you put Dan Pena? Where would you put Dan Pena? For those of you who know who he is. Where would you put him? Here's where I would put him. Dan is very direct. In fact, he's extremely direct, and he's all about facts. Like, boom, he'll tell a couple of stories. So we'll put him like right here. Dan Pena belongs like right there, I think. He's direct, tells facts, has some stories. I give him that. That's why I move him closer to the top because he has some great stories. You guys say 3, you're with me. Marcin puts him in 1. Great storytelling in there. I know, he does have some stories, right? So we'll just put him on the border right here. But we definitely know that he's at the extreme of direct. I think we could agree on that one. All right. So now, let's take another one. Wrong way. And this one, this is going to be a challenging one. Okay? Let's take Brian Tracy. Where would you put, let me just cross out Dan Penn here. Where would you put Brian Tracy? Oh, yeah. Where would you put Brian Tracy? For those who know who Brian Tracy is, it's an interesting exercise. Where would you put Brian Tracy? Give me some numbers here. Let me think about this. Yeah, that's a tough one. Where would you put him? Yeah, you guys are thinking about this one. I told you it was going to be a tough one. Charisma and fact, okay. Facts. I don't know what 5 is. I don't have a 5 here. Is that off the chart? I love it. 1, you would put him here. By the way, Tom Hopkins, by the way, that's a real good one, by the way. You would go 2. Yeah, I would put him here, but if I would put, let me just erase something here real quick. Let me just, and see if you agree with me. I'm going to put Rohn, hold on a second. These are, to the extent. In other words, these are, if I were to draw these like a scale of 1 to 5. 1 to 5 charisma, 1 to 5 direct, and let's just say 1 to 5 storytelling. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it, right? So I would put a Jim Rohn, because to me, Jim Rohn has a lot of charisma. He's over here with Zig Ziglar, right? They're the extreme of charisma and storytelling. Brian Tracy, I would put him, let me see, stories 3. Yeah, I would, if I were to rank Brian Tracy, because he's kind of a very dry speaker. Not a lot of charisma, right? Kind of direct. And so, but he would be more, he does tell stories. I guess I would put him here somewhere. I'm going to put Brian Tracy here. I'm going to put BT right there. That's a tough one, right? To me, that's a tough one because you can make the argument, some of you have made the argument, he belongs over here. He's more direct with storytelling. So, but I know he's more towards, he's not full charisma. Okay? By the way, that's not a knock on Brian Tracy. It's just style. But even with his style, look how successful he is, right? So I'm trying to highlight something as I go through this is that every style has its own what? Level of success. So Brian Tracy, even if I put him closer to the direct, less charisma, he's been extremely successful, right? And so let's go with another one. Let's see. Okay, so we got that one. Okay, Jordan Belfort. Let's go with Jordan Belfort. Where would you put Jordan Belfort? The Wolf of Wall Street. Where would you put the wolf, man? Yeah, the wolf. Where would you put the Wolf of Wall Street? The Wolf of Wall Street. I know where I would put him. I got my number already. You got to pick a number, though. You got to give me a number. Jonathan goes with 3. What do you guys got? Where would you put the Wolf of Wall Street? You would go with a 4. Okay. 4. Okay. Bear. Okay, Earl Nightingale, we'll keep him up. But, by the way, super Earl Nightingale fan. 3. 4. What is 5? Oh, you give him a 5 on story. I see what you're saying now. Okay. So let's just stick with quadrants right now. So I would definitely put Jordan Belfort over here on the direct side, right? He's definitely on the direct side. And I would put him, is he more of a storyteller or does he give you a lot of facts? Storyteller or fact? I'm having a hard time with this one because he does a little bit of both, right? So I think Jordan Belfort and, Dan Pena have quite a lot in common. Would you agree with that? That's right. Let's just say that they have a lot in common. They're direct. You can guarantee they're direct. And I'm sure they have some storytelling and they give a lot of facts. So, Jonathan, I'm going to leave it right there. All right. Seems direct and charismatic. Jordan Belfort, you would give him more on charisma. So you would shift him this way, Mark, is what you're saying. You would put him more that way, like over here somewhere. Direct, but he's got to be in the direct. But yeah, I mean, he has charisma. But man, he's just direct, man. Maybe he belongs more towards the middle or something like that. Yeah, I love the movie too, man. All right, so Daniel Pena is more direct, I think. All right, we'll shift Jordan Belfort so we give him more charisma. We'll move him over here. We're going to move Jordan Belfort over here because I think to some point you're right. I mean, he does have a little more charisma than Dan Pena. Not a knock on Dan Pena, okay? So, Dan, if you're watching this, not a knock. It's just, dude, you're like, where Jordan will kind of massage it just a little more. If you don't know who Dan Pena is, look him up. I'm telling you, you will enjoy. I mean, if you want cuts like a knife, let me see, what it says. No one can sell anything to everyone. Each thing has its own level of customers. That's right. I mean, that's the point I'm trying to make here, that all these different styles, by the way, all these styles are successful. So it's not which one is better than the other. Dan Lok. Give me Dan Lok. Oh, sorry. I erased Dan Lok. But anyway, so Dan Lok would be, he sells high-ticket items, right? So where would you put Dan Lok? Dan Lok is interesting. Where would you put Dan Lok? What do you guys got? And if you don't know who he is, look him up, LOK. Dan Lok. Where would you put him? Here, he's very charismatic, good storyteller. I think he's very direct. I would put him somewhere, he's definitely direct, but he has charisma, right? So he's kind of right here in the middle. I think he's more storytelling. Does he have more charisma or he's more direct? I don't know. That's a tough one. Where would you put him? 3? I'm going to go with 3. I think 3 is a good quadrant for him. But he's direct, has a lot of facts, but he does have charisma, man. We just can't take that away from the guy. Do you know what? So 2, 1, tough one, man. So Dan Lok, direct, charisma. I think he's more direct. So I say he's on this side of the grid. So he's either 1 or 3. Does he have more stories or more facts? More stories or more facts? You know, I think, somebody says 3. What do you guys got? It's either 1 or 3. I'm leaning towards 1. You guys are saying 3. I actually think 1, but we'll leave it at that. The winner, you guys are putting him down here. So we'll put DL down here somewhere on that side, okay? We're at least in the right area because I think he's more direct. He has charisma. Those shiny suits, got it. So, but on this side, again, I don't know about that red shiny suit. So if you're watching this, I'm just saying, Dan, I'm not with the shiny suits. But I hear you. That's your style. That's what I dig, man. That's what I dig. I love people with their own style. So, and then Tony Robbins. Although not really directly in sales, he implicitly influences, persuades, therefore making him a great sales guy. And by the way, you can't take it away from Tony Robbins, man. That's like the original influence and persuasion dude, right? I mean, I think he made it. Where would you put Tony Robbins? Dude, I'm just going to put him here. You know what? That's TA right there. He's got everything. He's got everything. You know, I could put 5 this way, 5 that way, 5 that way, 5 that way. That's just right where you want to be, man. I don't know what to do with that one. You know, because, I mean, Tony Robbins is very direct, great at storytelling, charisma definitely. Would you say he's more direct or he has a lot of charisma? I mean, it's just so hard. But I think he's up here. If I were to push him, I mean, he has some facts, but he's mostly storytelling, which is up here. So I would put him in a 1 or 2. And then Dan Lok does tell stories. So you guys agree that Tony Robbins should be more here. I think I'm actually with that. I think I'm with that. I think he's a great storyteller, master storyteller, like a lot of these great sales guys are. All right, let's have more fun. So DPB, this is David Patrick Betts. What do you think of David Patrick Betts? He has a channel called Valuetainment. Check it out. What do you think of him? David Patrick Betts. I'll put mine later on, Bilal. Where do you think David Patrick Betts would be? I think, man, he's really good but I like him because I would put David Patrick Betts here. He has a lot of these things. He's very direct, but I think his facts, because he really does, when he interviews people, he goes after them, and really he does a lot of detail work that I really love. He's one of the few speakers that I know that really get into the nitty-gritty, that I think really understand business from many perspectives. That's why I really love his stuff. So he's definitely a fact dude, and he does have charisma, but he's also blunt. But I'm going to put him on the charisma side. I'll put him right there for now. Let me see. My friend Jeb Blunt. Jeb Blunt, Sales Gravy. Where do we put Jeb Blunt? What do you got for Jeb Blunt? What do you got? What do you got? I know you guys got some more names, but I don't want to add any more names because it's already long enough. So, who else? What do you got for Jeb Blunt? Where would you put Jeb Blunt? 3, direct, facts. I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to go JB right here. Okay? Has a little charisma, can tell stories, but boom, he's right here in this quadrant. And then, let's go, how about Jeffrey Gitomer? Oh, yeah. Let's go with Jeffrey Gitomer. Where'd you put Gitomer? Where'd you put Gitomer? This is an interesting one, right? Where would you put Jeffrey Gitomer? Man. I know where I would put him. Go ahead. What do you guys got? Where would you put Jeffrey Gitomer? If you know who he is, you got to know who he is. Where would you put him? I definitely know he's very direct. Very direct. That's it. Very direct. And he's also, I think, he tells a lot of stories. So I would put Jeffrey Gitomer right here. He's direct and storytelling, right? So somebody says 4, facts and charisma. Are you talking about the same, Tarun, are we talking about the same Jeffrey Gitomer? No. On the spectrum of direct versus charisma, that guy goes on the direct side. So what's the name of the whiteboard? It's called the Vibe board. So 2, I could see, no, not for Jeffrey Gitomer. No, I'm going to have to strongly disagree with you because I think he's more this way. Again, if I'm not, by the way, in case Jeffrey's watching, I'm not saying you don't have charisma. It's not what I'm saying. But if you're on the spectrum of direct and charisma, he's over here. Great storyteller, right? Knows how to set it up. And then he has that gruff accent, really knows how to get into a story. And I like the way he chops through things. He also has a lot of facts. So one could also say he can come down here. But let's put him right here for now. And then let's see who else we got. Mark Wayshak. Where would you put him? Mark Wayshak? Where would you put him? And I'll help you with that one. I would put Mark, if I were to guess, very charismatic and maybe storytelling, maybe facts. I think I would put Mark Wayshak here. That's where I would put him. That's where I would put him. And then who else we have left? Mel Robbins. Where would you put Mel Robbins? Because to me, is from a sales standpoint, I didn't see Mel Robbins as a salesperson, but she is a great business person. So where would you put Mel Robbins? I would put her definitely right here. Mel Robbins is right there, I think, if I were to put it somewhere else. Last but not least, you're going to ask the question, where would you rate Victor Antonio? Okay, now you guys should tell me where I belong. Tell me where I belong here. Tell me where I belong. This will be fascinating. I don't know if I want to hear your answer, but go ahead, give it to me, man. I can take it. Be hard on me. Which quadrant do I go in? Which one do I go in? What would you vote? Which quadrant would you put me in? I have my ideas. What do you guess? What would you guess? Tarun, you're too cool. You got to give me a quadrant though. Rigel, I appreciate that. 2, 4. Yeah. I'm not perfect. Trust me. I think. Yeah. I mean, it's hard. The thing is, this is what's always tough, right? Because I think a lot of times when I have to do like the storytelling piece, I'm on the charisma side. Do you know what I mean? But I also try not to be fluffy. Because if you go too far over here, you're fluffing it too much. And also, you got to be direct. I mean, the balance really is to be somewhere where that guy's at. That's the balance, right? But if I had to push one, I would probably it would be more down here, right? It would be more down here somewhere. So it would be either maybe 3 or 4, one of these two, depending on what mood I feel in. But I do like this part. I think when people ask me, why are you different? It's because I like to take studies, I like to get facts, and I like to kind of present facts and then wrap a story around them, or so forth and so on. So that thing. So anyway, by the way, thank you on the compliments, man. I appreciate that. So anyway, I wanted to do this exercise with you just to drive home a point. All these folks, all these sales trainers, all these gurus, experts are successful, but they're all over the map. Do you know what I mean? They're visually all over the map. They have their own style. So stop asking the question, how should I sell? What's my style? Right? Elise says, I need a Z-axis. All right? 3-dimensional. We're not doing Z-axis right now, but I appreciate it. You want one coming out this way. And if you had a third, okay, Elise, if you're going to be so clever with your Z-axis coming out this way, what would be the 2 extremes? Your turn. Okay? But I just wanted to highlight that everybody has their own style. And so what I ask you to do is never listen to like one sales trainer or one sales guru, right? Listen to many. I try to listen to all these guys. That's why I know the names, because everybody has something to offer. And so just like when you have a music playlist, I hate when people say, who's your favorite sales trainer besides you? Who's your favorite motivational speaker? Who's your favorite? Who knows? It's just like if you look at your phone and you go through your music selection, you can't say who your favorite artist. I mean, you might lean towards one that you kind of always like, but we have to change the music up in order to be entertained. I think when we study different people, different styles, and how they approach their business, then we become better, because all of a sudden, remember what Bruce Lee said? And I've said this before, it's one of my favorite sayings. Bruce Lee said, in order to learn something, he said, absorb what is useful, discard what is not, and then add what is uniquely yours. Let me say that again. Absorb what is useful, discard what is not, and then add what is uniquely yours. That is when you'll finally get it. You'll come up with your style of selling. Whether it's introvert or extrovert, doesn't matter. What we need to figure out is, how do we create our own style and how do we be true to ourselves? And I said this before, that the toughest road to success is the road back to you. What does that mean? Is that too often we try to be somebody else, but in reality, we're going to go try to be somebody else. But the toughest road back to success is the road back to you. Because once you become authentic, become you, sell the way you sell, whatever quadrant you're in, that's when people start connecting with you on a business level. So Anyway, LSA says if she adds the Z-axis, one would be personal and empathy. I'm going to let you go with that. We'll go with that. So anyway, that's all I wanted to hang out with you guys. Do you guys have any questions, or I'm off this thing? So glad this popped up in my feed. Thank you, Deb, for hanging out. And again, different styles. Mark says, here, let's bring up some of these comments so we can just kind of hang out for a little longer. And says, Mark, a great point on having our own individual style. Absorb what is useful, discard what is not, and add what is uniquely yours. Excellent. I mean, it's a beautiful line, right? And I use that in everything. Like even when I do sales training, I have people say, you know, because by the way, the reason this is powerful, if you're a trainer of any sort, if you're a trainer or a manager of any sort, and you got to educate people, you should use this line. I use it all the time. It's a way of blocking objections. Because before I start, I usually say, look, many of you have been in sales for many years. In fact, many of you have been in sales longer than I've been born. I said, that said, here's what I want you to do. As you're listening to me speak, I want you to remember what Bruce Lee said. He said, absorb what is useful, discard what is not, and then add what is uniquely yours. As you listen to me, and I always do this, it always works. As you listen to me, I want you to absorb what's useful. If it's not useful to you, discard it. But at the end of the day, you add what is uniquely yours, and that becomes your style. And you can feel the resistance in the room just drop. Because what did I just say? I literally said to them, you don't have to listen to me. It's like a buffet. Take what you want, leave what you don't, and at the end of the day, it's all about you. And I'm telling you, it reduces resistance every single time. Bilal said, just want to thank you. Thank you, man. I appreciate you. From the Philippines, thank you. And again, I don't know what you guys got planned for the weekend, and I wanted to cover, I did cover everything I wanted to cover. Again, this is a short one, but I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, check out the website, the Sales Velocity Academy. I think it's that one right there. And people keep asking me about, you see the subscribe button here? If you want to get a notification, you got to hit that little bell. Okay? So if you want to get a notification when I go live, you got to hit that little bell and then you'll get a notification. Somebody said here, oh, that's nice, man. I appreciate that. You talk about what you do, but you actually show how to do it right. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Jonathan says, the point of the second part to have your own style that you feel for. Yeah, I mean, you just got to feel it. I'm telling you, I became a better salesperson when I stopped trying to mimic other people. That's when everything changed for me because it was very different. Oh, before I forget. So one of the things I want to start doing, is I want to start recommending books. Books that I think you should read that I think they've passed the Victor filter, right? They went through this brain, they came out the other side, and my brain said, valuable. Okay, so I got a book for you. And this one came out a couple of months ago, and I interviewed this gentleman. His name is Jonah Berger. Now, Jonah Berger wrote a book called The Catalyst. He's written other books, but this one right here, How to Change Anyone's Mind. I love this book. And I'm not just saying I love it because, I love this book. I hate when people just do that. Oh, I love this book. It's a great book. No, I went through this thing. And if you see it, it's marked up. I really mark up my books. I don't know if you can see that. I really write all over my books. I pretty much destroy them. And so the more writing I have in my book, the more you know I really like the book. And so this book has so many great concepts. Now, some of the stuff I already knew. But what was interesting is that two people can read the same study. Two people can read the same study, but it was interesting to get his perspective on how he viewed the study and how he applied it to persuasion and selling. So I'm going to highly recommend The Catalyst, How to Change Anyone's Mind by Jonah Berger. It's about, it's a read. It's about 250 pages, and he has an acronym. I don't think I'm cheating him out of anything. He has an acronym, and let me give you what the acronym is. Because with the acronym, maybe I'll tempt you into buying the book. No, I don't get a commission off of this stuff. When you come across great material with, from great authors, it's pretty cool. Anyway, I know the acronym is REDUCE. Here's his acronym, REDUCE. That's the acronym he uses. So it says, I can't find, the first one he talks about is reactance. I don't know can you guys see that with this green color? Yeah, reactance. And that is, when you tell somebody what to do, they're less likely to do it because guess what? They're going to push back. That's reactance. That's why pressuring people in selling today doesn't work. Studies have shown, there was an interesting study, if I can bore you. There was an interesting study that was done with cold calling, for example, on cold calling. And what they found is that when they called somebody where they're making phone calls trying to close people, that the average salesperson would use 3 to 4 different closes. And then they monitored the close rate. And then they trained them, right? And then the people started using more closes. And the more closes they used, the sales went down. Why? Because people felt the pressure. That's reactance. People pull back when they feel the pressure. Now, you got a lot of sales gurus out there that says, man, you got to close a deal. A, B, C, always be closing. I get that. I'm saying always ask for the order. Always try to persuade people to actually move forward. But at the end of the day, when people feel pressured, they pull back, okay? The name of the book, somebody asked again, is The Catalyst. And so the first one is reactance. When you tell somebody to do something, they don't want to do it. In fact, the opposite happens. When you tell them not to do it, they do it. And this book highlights some great examples. The second one is this strategy. It's called the endowment. Now, I'm telling you, that strategy alone, endowment, it means that once you own something, you value it more. Rajef, yes, The Catalyst, by Jonah Berger, right? And so I'll put the notes in the, here man, I'll give you a zoom up version of that. Wait a minute, I think I got a better thing. Let me see if this works. Bam, there it is, right there. The Catalyst, Jonah Berger. Can you guys see that? Cool. Anyway, I'm learning how to use my new little Stream Deck thing here. And I get, ooh, yeah. There you go. I think that was better actually. See? The Catalyst. All right, cool. All right, so endowment means when somebody owns something, guess what? They're less likely to give it up. Somebody asked me, Victor, do you prefer reading ebooks or hardcover? Hardcovers. For some reason, when I read an ebook, I just can't finish it. Because I like to engage with my book. So one of the things I do, see if you can see it here, is I always date my books. So I can tell you that this one I read January 13th, 2020. I always date my books when I read the book. And then, this guy's I started hacking up from the very beginning, started underlying stuff. And so, I don't know if you can see that, but that's me carving up a book. And so some books get really torn up. They're not even resellable because I just mess them all up. I have internal dialogues with myself when I read a book. I'll read a page and I go, what about that? What about that? What about that? That doesn't make sense. And I actually argue with the book. But it allows me to think through the concept. Victor, have you read The Way of the Wolf? I have not read The Way of the Wolf. So let's go back to this. The endowment, right? And then the other one was, I don't want to forget this. I want to get it right. So endowment means that once you own it, you're less likely to give it up. But once you own it, you're less likely to give it up. And it talks about how you can sell more. This is a great upselling strategy. You'll have to read the book to find out why. And then this one was interesting, distance. And it was actually this one's tougher to describe. It's how to, create some mental distance between you and your customer to give them perspective. That's all I'll give you on that one. And then this one, the C was certainty. In this case, or rather, the U was uncertainty, right? And then this one was collaborating evidence, which really is about social proof right there. But the two chapters the ones that impacted me were reactance, the endowment, and uncertainty. And how you manage that, and that's in the book. Again, it's a great book. It's a great read. I read Snap Selling years ago. That is by Jill. Oh, by the way, you guys don't know what I'm talking about here. I'm talking to my man Enoch here. I think that's by Jill Konrath, and that came out about 6-7 years ago. Let me know if I'm right. Do you revise what you highlighted in the book? I don't know what you mean by revise. It's like just me arguing with myself. What I do is, I don't have it with me. And so what I do is so step one, read the book, beat it up, right? Beat it up. And then, I don't have these with me, but then what I then do is I do the second pass through the book. This helps your memory, your brain. And the second pass is I write all the great concepts on index cards, right? And so then, once I get through the whole book, I just take the best of the best and put them on the index card. So I have this already highlighted. I take the best of the best. So if I had, let's say I highlighted, just to exaggerate, 100 things here. By the time I move them over to the cards, there's probably maybe 20 things only, because I consider that the best of the best of the best, right? And then I write an index, on the top of the index card, I put a blank sheet like this, blank index card, and I write The Catalyst. And then I put a little pincher on there, right? Something to hold it. And then what happens is, let's say a month or two from now, I'll pick up all the cards, like flashcards, and then I'll do this. Oh yeah, the catalyst. Let me go back and read some of the notes. And I just do this, do this, and I go through the notes. And if something is unclear, I go, I forgot what I wrote that for. That ever happened to you? You write something, you go, I don't know what that's for. Then I go back to the book to figure it out. What happens is, if you use this as cue cards, Jonathan, your brain starts remembering things, which has helped me a lot in remembering different authors, different concepts, and different models. And that's how I cheat. If I can say that, that's how I cheat, man. And let me see, somebody, on this one, no. I think we had this conversation before, Rod. I think I'm struggling with this one, man. It's just not my industry, man, and I don't want to make things up. Like I said, Mom said if you don't know, just say you don't know. So again, man, thank you guys. I hope you'll read the book. It's a great book. The emphasis today was Starbucks. Hey, they're closing the stores, but I look at them as adapting to what's going on. What are you doing to adapt to what's going on in the market? And then second, remember, we did this. And by the way, this is the first time I've ever done this whole thing about style. And so I'm sure I missed a lot of people. Trust me, I missed a lot of people. But the point here is everybody has their own style. Dude, be successful at your own style. Cool. I'm out of here. Enjoy the weekend.